coming today. I'm glad we had such a good turnout. For all of you who don't know me, I'm Carol Webster, General Manager. This is John Riley and John Lacey. They're both from Coastal Engineering, and they're going to talk about the rezoning project right next to our property.
This sounds better? Oh, I can talk loud.
We hear you.
My wife doesn't like it, but I can't talk loud. Let me tell you, first of all, we're both with Coastal Engineering, which is a consulting firm that's been in Brooksville for like 60 years. And we were involved with Charlie Sasser and everything before when this place was being done way back when. So I've been here with Coastal 40 years. What's happened, that property's been out in front of you forever. A piece of property that you see is sort of like an open field now. It's always been designated for commercial in the comprehensive plan. The comprehensive plan is an overall plan for the county that says what's going to happen. It's been zoned commercial before, then people didn't want to pay any taxes, so they slipped it back into something else, so now it's going back to where everybody's expected it to be. On the positive side, in particular, is that there's a fairly classy outfit that's got their hands on this and planning to develop this. They own it. They purchased it from the Huntley family, and they're going to master plan it. So the concept is where instead of having a little hodgepodge of commercial like you might see in a number of places on 50 and 19 in particular, it's going to be done in a coordinated fashion. It's going to be connected on the east and west sides. And this is, let me get rid of this. That's one of the rare times I'm not alike. I don't pick up my phone from my wife. She said, how come you didn't pick up the phone? With about 100 ladies out here. But the property, this is Brookridge on the top portion of this layout. This is State Road 50, Cortez Boulevard. Your entrance is on this side. The Grove Road is on the other side of the project. The project's going to have connections on both sides, and it's going to have 3 connections on the south side where it is on State Road 50. So the concept is most of the people that are going to be utilizing this are probably going to be coming up the other than you guys, are going to be coming up the Suncoast Parkway and probably heading home. That's the anticipation marketing of the project. And so they'll be driving by in this direction, probably pop into whatever they're doing, pop back out on the 50 and go. Obviously, some of the people will end up on your entrance here. Some of the people will end up on Grove Road coming in. Some people will be coming out to use the intersection with the signal. I'll say right off the bat is that we're in a land use process for this now. The way the zoning process works, it's a master plan that's required. It's called a plan development project. Instead of just getting a commercial or an industrial or a residential designation and going by the books, the county gets to work with the applicant as to what types of access, where things go. They can set conditions of approval on here that were helpful buffers, other kinds of things involved. And they don't have to just live with what's allowed for commercial. People come in with just a plain commercial, can do it just whatever says in the books. If the county wanted something, they can't change it. If you all suggest something that makes sense, it doesn't really is required. In this case, whatever is approved by the Board of County Commissioners is required by the developer to do it in a certain way. One of those things is a reverse frontage road. There needs to be a frontage road that goes across the property so that each parcel isn't accessed from Cortez by itself. So you can see along this layout, the county likes to have that toward the rear of the property so that pushes all the buildings further away, potentially further away from y'all. And what you'll be looking at along those properties that are along here is they'll be looking at probably some type of a fence. It would be an opaque fence, most likely, whatever really the community wants. Be an opaque fence, 6 to 8, maybe 8 feet tall, and then there'll be some level of buffering on the other side, and then there'll be like a 50-foot road right of way with sidewalks on it and everything. And then the buildings will be further down from there. The more active buildings will be along State Road 50. And we've got a couple of examples and stuff, but those will be things like restaurants, other kinds of services. The larger items like might be a clothing store, might be a grocery store, could be. Yeah. Could well be. And some of the restaurants you're going to see here, most of these are going to be new to the Brooksville and Hernando County area. So you're going to be seeing restaurants that you haven't seen elsewhere, at least along State Road 50. So it'll be another batch of possible places that I would imagine you will frequent some of them, a number of the items that are in here. It's going to be made accessible for pedestrians. Now, what you can do with golf carts, I have no idea. So somebody said you can't take them off the property. I don't know if that's your own thing or whether the county has it set up that way, but we'll be set up so that people can access as readily as they need to through there. Before this project gets actually built, first of all, the land use process, there's going to be 2 hearings. One's going to be with the Board of Planning and Zoning Commission, which is citizens like yourself. 5 of them get up there. They make a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. The Board of County Commissioners will make, a month later, they will make a decision, and the county staff is putting together a staff report. They're taking input. We did have a neighborhood inquiry meeting over at the library. Now we're having sort of a second go at it here because it's a lot more accessible here. And so comments that come from y'all will be taken into account. Anything you write up on the comment sheets over there, those will get copied and they'll be put to the Board of County Commissioners. So they'll see comments that you have, whether or not it's like, go away, whether or not, I want to see a certain kind of restaurant. Not that they'll be able to say that, but you comments are in, so I suggest that you do make those. If you really need to say something in the public hearings, you say, please come. They start at 9 o'clock in the morning. It's the second Monday of the month for the Planning and Zoning Commission, and that's probably going to be, I don't know that they'll be able to do it in October. It's probably going to be November they bring this thing up. But you will get, people within 300 feet get a notice. So those of you that live close to that property will get notices in the mail. Those of you, the homeowners association will also get, they'll probably put it on whatever communication y'all do. And that will be made available to you. But there'll be 2 hearings later this month. And there'll be a staff report first. The staff report will take into account our application, your comments, and the staff's look and how everything fits and how it should happen. When it goes to the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Board of County Commissioners, this is designated for commercial use. So they're likely to be approving something. The issue is, what kind of conditions, what kind of buffers, what kind of an access. We've already know that, we have to be a little bit careful on your entrance road in here. You have a lot of people going in, a lot of people going out. We're going to have to either expand some of the capacity in it, put appropriately, and put other things appropriately in there. I thought I shut this off. I'm sorry. Now it's off. So they'll be listening to all that input, and they will be taking it, and every one of you, any of you that you wish to speak at the public hearing will have up to 3 minutes to say your piece. And once this thing is approved for something commercial in here, and whatever conditions go on it, there are further steps, just so that you understand. There's going to be a traffic study, and the traffic study is going to take a look, and they're going to count all the cars that are happening. And they're specifically, in this case, going to also look at what kind of queuing you have for cars that are going in and out of your gate and how far back they queue up. That's going to be a concern. The real estate. What's that? Okay, and that's a good time to do it. If for some reason they do it at a different time, they do have a calculated figure that they put in that they increase the numbers for the season. In other words, if they don't take it during the high season, they increase the numbers by a certain percentage to try to make up for the fact that they didn't take it during the high season. But the traffic study will be done. Then there's going to be a conditional planning where they're going to be bringing in a detail of how this is going to be specifically set up. And then there will be construction plans. So you're probably not going to see anything for 1.5 to 2 years before you actually see vertical and stuff that goes up on there. I think the county engineer is going to probably work with them as to how construction happens, you know, how they access for purposes of construction, and whether or not, you know, fences and buffers get set up in advance or when they get set up as this. There's a number of types of issues that I think would be of interest and concern. At this point in time, there are going to be, we're also, I should mention that the real estate, I think there's a real estate office there, that's part of what they purchased. They also purchased the ALF that's over there on the other side. So they've got both of those properties, which is going to allow them, we're going to try to put some of the drainage retention and open space toward the corners, toward you guys on the north side. That works well in that location, and that also helps push the buildings. The county has what they call a big box ordinance. And so when somebody builds a building, let's just say somebody puts in a Publix, somebody puts in LA Fitness. We're going to be looking at how they'll load, in other words, where the trucks will come to load stuff. Will it be in the back, or will we put it on the side to keep it a little further away? They also require lighting to be focused away from your community toward those buildings. They also have requirements for how they block off the views and stuff of air conditioning units and the condensers that are up on there. Trash pickup and stuff like that. Everything. Those kind of things can be done as part of the plan development project, that kind of zoning. Those kind of zoning conditions can be placed in there. And the county has a big box ordinance that sort of tries to make sure that anybody building a fairly large commercial entity in there has to meet extra buffering, extra blocking of things, and extra kinds of architectural stuff. The outfit that is doing this, just to go to some of these others, and John can point out the other side, but they're going to have a common architecture. They're going to have requirements that they're going to be making in addition to the county's conditions. The applicant is going to require and have a sort of a set of standards for anybody that develops. Anybody that they lease to or acquires a small portion of it is going to have to build it in such a fashion, architecturally and stuff like that, so it fits. The signage, there's not going to be like neon signs and things like that stuck around there. You're going to have I'm sure this will be a staff recommendation or requirement, you're going to have essentially mounted signs that are from the earth going up only to a certain distance, and they'll all be of a similar nature architecturally. So they're going to sign it correctly. They're not going to have individual like gaudy signs or high signs, big billboard kinds of stuff. That stuff won't go in there. The types of uses, they've already indicated there will be several restaurants that they're looking at. There may be a fast food or two in there, but there'll also be some restaurants that they're looking at. They will have some other kind of things that you're probably seeing in some of the commercial plazas down in the Tampa and St. Pete area that you haven't seen up here. Some of them are starting to come. Hernando County's on the map now, I guess. You're seeing a lot of stuff here we didn't see 20 years ago. They said, oh, those not coming up to Hernando County. They're all coming up here now. I'm trying to recall, since they are not here to talk for themselves, I'm trying to recall some of the things they said. John, I didn't remember any of these stuff. You can pop it on in. Covered pretty well. Well, why don't we take a few questions now, then we'll probably bang a few other things around in my mind, and I can bring up some other issues. So if people have questions, just put your hands up if you will. I'll just call on you one at a time. Yes, ma'am.
Does that affect our taxes?
No, I'm not sure. Let's put it this way. Your homes have gone up in value like everybody has in the county. I'm not sure that this is going to accelerate it in any fashion that I can think of, no. And plus, if you've got your homes, hopefully your taxes can only go up a few % a year. I happen to have it, so I'm happy I have it, considering what's happening. Yes, back there.
You had said something about the real estate. They acquired the real estate. Then you mentioned the other side. I don't know what those, they have something or other.
Oh, there's a life care center. There's, and what, That life care center is just sort of, you know, they have some stages toward a nursing home. It's not all the way to nursing home. But they're over on this parcel over in here, closer toward Grove Road. And essentially, now that there's one that was built right over there at, further on Cortez, it's called Cortez Oaks. They have it over near the Oak Hill Hospital. The big one that went over there had an impact on this one. This one's no longer making any money, so effectively they were planning to close it down, and they were going to do it. And so they bought this, and they were able to make it as part of this overall project. In the back.
Yeah, you talked about the.
She's got a list. Just one?
Yeah. The traffic study.
Yes.
Is it possible for Brookridge to insist that the traffic study be done December, January, or February? Because that is our peak time.
Right.
And you're
Yeah.
gonna
It would, yes. I mean, you can well, put it this way. Put that down as a comment. I think it's good to have it done during a certain time of year that it's busiest. So we'll try to do it that way because it'll be required before conditional, as part of conditional planning. And say the zoning happens in December, and they get the zoning, yes, we could get the traffic study probably started and done in January, February. We could get the traffic counts. The traffic counts are one of the first part of the thing. That's when you want, what's what you want done in the winter, is the traffic counts, so you can see what the traffic is.
Right.
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
How many stores do you think they're
Well, there's 13 lots. There's 13 parcel locations. 4 toward the rear, and the other 9 toward the front. So that's more likely up to 13 different entities. A couple of these entities maybe, if you have something here, there may be like 2 attached, like a donut shop and something else next to it or something. So it could be a couple more entities than that, but probably around 13. And with 3 or potentially 4 of them toward the rear, like those would be things like dry goods stores, clothing store, Publix potentially. I mean, Publix would take a significant chunk if they did come in. Yes, sir.
In relation to the interest that we have now, is it possible to have another separate lane there? That land is between the parking lot for the liquor store and the road, and you bought the other property. Is that anything that's been mentioned?
We can actually put additional right-of-way. We can go into what we show as the drainage retention area. We can have some widening on this side just before from that existing road that comes across, that frontage road, whatever that's called. Tundra? Okay, well, Tundra is going to come into here. Tundra is going to come across and become our reverse frontage road. From Tundra on up, it's possible to put some additional laneage in there. When you go south of there toward the road, we don't own that property, so whatever the right-of-way is in there, if there's enough right-of-way, it's potentially able to improve it. The traffic study will determine, I guess, to some extent what's needed.
So you're definitely going to cross Tundra with what? On Brookridge Central?
Yeah, there'll probably be some signage in there, stop signage. I mean, I don't know if it'll be a signal, but I mean, it's always possible to be doing something in there. Whatever they feel is, whatever the county engineer is going to determine what is needed in order to allow the project to go forward.
Well, as you probably get, right there is going to be the sore point that most people are concerned about.
Yes, sir.
Make it simple. In the world today, they have circles all over the world, right?
Roundabouts.
Like roundabout there, no stop signs. No traffic will be stopped, then they'll all flow.
If there's room enough for a roundabout in there, no. Actually, folks, I have a transportation planning background. Roundabouts are very functional. You like them or you don't like them, but they're very functional and they move traffic through more readily. And they are and if there's room enough for them, that'll be one of the things for consideration as to whether or not that would happen in that location. Yes, ma'am.
So you don't have the property the liquor store is on?
No.
So our entrance is going to have to stay that small. It's all going to bottleneck there.
So there's 2 things you need to be considered, 2 things thought pattern. I'm not sure if you all are aware or not, but on the south side of the road, where it goes down to Barclay, that's going to be 4-lane. Not immediately, but that's going to be 4-lane. They're going to start from the south down toward Powell and down toward Spring Hill. And they're going to be 4-laning it all the way up to 50. That's on the county's plans to accomplish that. That whole intersection is going to have to be reanalyzed and looked at as to how to make it. One of the positive sides of it is I think you're probably going to have more green time going in and out of Brookridge. I mean, they'll have to give more green time to Brookridge than they have right now. And that'll allow that. And if we can get some more, lanes that can be turning, you know, I'm sure that'll be looked at too if that can be accommodated in there. Yes, ma'am.
I have a question about the current wildlife that lives on that property. And obviously it's going to migrate somewhere, right? Do they consider that when they're doing their construction? Whatever one.
There's two steps to that. Number one is there are listed environmental species that you have to protect or you have to do something. If there are gopher tortoises there, which is quite likely, you know, although it's been grazed, when they're grazing, you have less of the gopher tortoises. Gopher tortoises are one that are known to be in this area that would end up having to be relocated, not locally, but generally relocated. They have like ranches for these things. They like condos for tortoises. And it actually costs, for every one of those you move, it costs around $7,000. So those tortoises go by, you know. Pretty cool fellas. I don't know how many rodents there are out there, but I mean, I would say those rodents are going to go somewhere else than they're going right now. And they did, you know, when y'all came, they moved to somebody else's place. I mean, that just sort of happens. Rodents have a way of doing that. Yes, sir.
In relation to Tundra Drive again, if I could go on that again, you know, if you come down, there's really no way to come across from behind, I should say, east or west of Sunshine Grove. So are they considering making that a throughway by any chance?
Tundra?
Yeah. On Tundra, yeah.
Tundra is essentially what they call a reverse frontage road, which is essentially what we've shown here too. And that is public and meant to go east and west. The big thing, what it's supposed to...
You can't cross Sunshine Grove.
No, because the turn lanes, they built that road a little too far, close to 50. There's not enough far enough back. They have too many left turn lanes going on to 50, so it stops there. And I don't know how they'd ever undo that and get themselves so they could just cross there.
Very little traffic then could come south on Sunshine Grove.
And take a left.
If they wanted to go to this development and they were on 50, they would already be there. Or they would continue on east and turn in. So what's the advantage of having Tundra be across there?
Well, the Tundra is essentially there so people going to Publix can go to Register Chevrolet, or you guys can go to either one. It's not there to essentially take traffic and replace 50, but it's supposed to allow anybody that can get onto it. And right now, like you're saying, people coming south on Sunshine Grove really can't get onto Tundra to be able to come and do this. I think, oh, they can? You can? Okay. I thought maybe the left turn lane's got in the way, but you know, okay, good. In the back, in the red.
You mentioned the rodents, right? Construction, you have rodents, and all the rodents go away from the construction, right? But what about the restaurants and things like that? You have two problems. You have dumpster runs at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning by commercial dumping people. And so is there any noise abatement to protect the people along there? You're getting a lot of noise early in the morning in the restaurant. And also during the nighttime when the restaurants are running, that they carry over into past our quiet hours. The other thing is, what are you doing about the rodents going back into driving and going into our community?
Okay, I'm not sure I caught the last question, but I did catch the earlier ones. One of the things the Board of County Commissioners can do is talk about timing. You know, when things, and, you know, again, a couple of comment sheets in here addressing some of that. You know, okay, we don't want to have backing up trucks between such and such and such and such, because they beat when they do that. We want to have side loading if possible on the bigger stores that are back in here. These are the kind of things that the Board of County Commissioners can consider adding into conditions. Normally, if it wasn't a planned development project, they couldn't pin that down or change that. But they can in this particular case. And those things, you know, what noise abatement, you'll know, you'll have an opaque fence, maybe 8 feet high, but I think 8 feet might be what you want as opposed to 6 feet. And then there'll be like a line of landscaping stuff on this side, then there'll be the road. So everything's gonna be at least 100 and some feet away from you building-wise from those lots, south onto the project. But those other kind of issues, I think those things, you should bring them up, and those can be discussed in the public hearing. Staff hears them, staff may put a staff recommendation in when they get these comments. The staff will see it first. Staff said, oh, that's a good idea. You know, let me put that in as one of the conditions that we're recommending. And even if they don't, then you all can say at the public hearing, or the Board of County Commissioners can read your things and say, hey, somebody suggested this, it's a good idea. Yes?
You said about 3 or 4 entrances going in off of 50, right?
Yes, you can see 3 arrows here generally where they are. It'll
All
depend.
those people that go shopping there, they're going right, have no problem. Which means people going left are going to be using our entrance to get out. They'll be back up right, trying to get in and get out of our property.
Okay, well, there's 2 things to that. Number one is that one of these entrances in the middle is going to be what they call a directional entrance. So they will be able to come in here and take a left and go on in, right into the project. They will not have to come in here in order to get over to there. They can come right into the middle. That's a possibility. I'm getting to your point. If they want to take a left out, they're going to either come in here and do a U-turn up here, where they'll come in the entrance to the light and come and take the left there. That's part of what the traffic study is going to try to determine, is how many left turns there would be and how many U-turns there would be and how it would function, and make sure that the work, and that'll be something that the county engineer's office, and in this case, the Department of Transportation, the state, is going to be involved in analyzing that and determining what needs to be done. Yes, back there.
If they do this is going to increase the traffic on Tundra quite a bit. Are they going to widen Tundra? That's a pretty narrow line road.
It'll be as wide as it needs to be on our side with the traffic study. So, I mean, it's, first of all, it's a 2-lane road. The lanes will be 12 feet wide probably, which is a wide road access. It would need to be multiple lane, which I doubt they would consider doing that. Now, what they will put on there is sidewalks probably on both sides, or potentially a wide walk on one side if it's determined that, you know, your carts are ever going to get off here, get over there. They'd probably make one side of it and then make it a wide walk so it can take carts a little more easily. I know there were a couple 3 hands back there, so who else do I have? Oh, no? Okay. Yes, sir. Generally, what they'll do is parking's different for restaurants than it is for restaurants, you probably get about a parking space and a half or so per table, you know, that's in the restaurant. So it depends on how many restaurants are there. If you're just talking about like a Publix requires like four parking spaces per 1,000 square feet of building and stuff. So Publix, you know, Publix likes to have a fair amount of parking. So it'll depend on what goes in there, but you'll have hundreds and hundreds of parking spaces as you go through there, but each one will be set up. They're also going to try to design those in such a fashion that they are, you know, they have some islands in between them a little bit. There'll be some green spaces dotted. It's not just going to be a sea of asphalt with nothing but stripes. The county has some stipulations with regards to that, standards for it, plus the applicant is going to have his own standards as to how they do that. But I think, you know, another good comment is, you know, we want to see some landscaping and some green and some stuff in amongst everything, so it does look pleasant as it can be. Yes, ma'am. The parking between what buildings? Yes. They'll probably, let's just say a Publix came in here for some reason, and the parking may come down further down here. This road is really an access drive across. It's not a road. It doesn't. This one here is more of a road with land. And this, there'll be an access way. Publix came in here. Their parking would probably come down. They'd rearrange this. Publix is a pretty good sized entity, and then most of their parking will virtually always come in front. I don't think there's going to be much parking to the rear of these back ones in here. There might be a little bit of employee parking that comes in there and leaves at the end of the day. That's possible. Yes, sir.
You mentioned the 100 foot. Now, is that 100 foot from the house to the fence, from the fence to the back of the building, or is that, where does the road fall in?
You can anticipate there'd be a fence. It'll take a couple of feet, or a few feet for that fence to be on there. Then there'll be a buffer, and then on the buffer there'll be a 50-foot right-of-way for the roadway, and then there'll be the backs of the parcels, and then the buildings will be further back from those. So they have to be at least 35 feet away from, I think, the reverse frontage road. So you can keep adding up the numbers, and the minimum of where the building could be 100 feet. It's more likely going to be beyond that. Sure. Yes, ma'am.
The traffic engineers haven't done a very good job. When we leave here and go across to Barclay, only 3 cars can go through.
Really?
So what makes you think the traffic engineers are going to do any better?
Well, well, first of all, if you come to the hearing, you probably should come. And say, please have the county engineer get up. I want to talk to him. And say, hey, I can only get 3 cars out of here. I think the Department of Transportation and the county both coordinate on the amount of green time that goes in there. The one thing about the Department of Transportation and the county think differently is how a road goes. The county, the Department of Transportation says, hi, State Road 50 is a way of getting me from the west side of the state to the east side of the state. It's one of the few ones that actually does that. And they say, we want to see traffic. Just keep moving back and forth across there. The county says, no, I got homes that want to get on there. I got commercial, and we're living on this road, and we need to get on and off it. And everybody that gets on and off the road makes it a little harder for DOT to get people across the state. Not that many people go across the state. 90% of everybody that's on 50 is going about a mile or 2 away. But that's the way they both think. And so it's an extremely good point to say we need more what they call green time, for both left turns and go-throughs, movements off of that roadway. The traffic study will help actually to some extent with that. It will actually indicate probably one of the recommendations that will come out of there is how much green time probably should go on at that intersection, and how many lanes should be at the intersection. Now, even if it says more lanes should be there, the question is then can we fit them in there, and how can it be done? And a lot of the onus is going to go back on the developer of this property to accomplish virtually everything that can be accomplished is going to be asked to be accomplished as part of the project. Another good reason why being done in total, if there was one little ice cream shop and somebody came in with another little restaurant and they came in one at a time, you can't require much of anything to be done in an overall sense. But if you're putting a big project together like this and doing it all as a master plan, you can. Yes.
People that live, their yard is going to be on the back.
Yes.
You said there's going to be like a see-through fence?
No. Opaque means 100% I can't see through.
So will that help with the sound?
It does help somewhat with the sound, yes. And then if you put a little tree with a canopy above it, you'll get a little more help with the sound. And then if you push the buildings far enough away, actually
How close will that fence be to the existing fence?
adjacent to it. I mean, it's going to be. It should be right. It should be right on the property line. Now, one of the things you can ask is that the fence be put up on the other side of the buffer. So whatever buffer there is would be on your side, behind your fence, and then the fence for this would go over next to the roadway right away. That's a reasonable request too, to say, hey, we just as soon have the fence on the other side of that buffer that we get, so that, and if it can't be done, you know, then we'll have to look at it when it's being developed, and when, you know, how well that fits with where the trees are located. We'll try to save some of the trees there if possible too, obviously. Yes?
Question, will our sign stay there, or will they have to take that down? Brookridge sign.
I gotta see where the sign is, because is the sign on their property or yours? We're not taking anything down that's yours. Oh, it's county? I know, but my wife says I'm oblivious to things like that. Yes? I don't think anybody's going to take... The traffic study will make recommendations with regards to all of that. If there's new lanes and if there's more lanes needed and the median needs to disappear, they'll discuss that. You know, if the median needs to be there and they can handle it without the median staying, I would assume it would stay in place. Those are handy to have. Yes?
Is the entrance to the plaza going to be a one-way?
No. Yes, ma'am.
How much of the entrance was Brookridge owned?
I think it comes all the way back to your gate before you actually have ownership. I'm not positive of that, but I think that's what. Well, the county engineer can do what he wants. We can't do what we want. The county engineer would have to tell us what can and can't be done within that. Again, that's, you know, I think that the HOA should be involved in when the traffic study is being done. I think the HOA should be involved and knowledgeable on it so they can pass along everything to you guys. And that way, you know, that way it isn't just being done by the county engineer and the applicant. You all know what's being thought of and proposed and what the recommendations are. A good thing is that the next step after the zoning, it's commercially designated in the comp plan. So let's say a zoning is going to take place, what it is and how it is, that's all up to the county commission. But the next step is called conditional planning. That's before they can make different lots or different parcels in here. They have to go back to the county with the geotechnical information, the traffic information, the traffic study, and other information so that the county can say, okay, that's a good way to divide it. And then the county engineer tells you exactly what you're doing for your roadway improvements. So you will see this after the concept visit. Yes, this belongs here and it makes sense here, and here's conditions we think make sense. The conditional plat will say what improvements need to be done by the developer as part of especially for traffic, where construction can come in, and a number of other items. And I think that ought to be coordinated, and at least communicated regularly with the planning, with the HOA, so you can get a copy of the traffic study and you can see, hey, here's what it says, and I think it did its job, or I think, whoa, wait a second. So I think that's a good idea. Yes, sir.
If that county says that new sign that we put out from them and take good money for it, Brookridge sign, will they reimburse us?
I think if there's a sign that has to be moved, and it's moved because of this project, I think it would be the responsibility of the developer of this project to make sure that sign, if it came down, could be reestablished somewhere else, it would be appropriate, and it would be an expense of the development as part of that. Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure. Again, I'm oblivious when I drive into someplace. I'm not sure about all the signs. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I just want to clear up, if there's talking about the road coming in and our sign and stuff. Okay. The county owns the road, Brookridge Central, up to our gate. The county owns the medians right up through the sign. I do not believe the county commissioners will get rid of that sign because it's a business sign. And that was, we had a problem with trees and stuff, and they cut the trees down so that we could always see our sign, everybody could see the sign. It's a business, so they're not going to do that. And they do own where the fountain is and everything, and they pay us a small amount, but we take care of from the guardhouse up to the road. So they pay us a little bit of money. And the sign that is on the coming out, the sign that is out about a foot that says no golf carts, the HOA has nothing to do with that. I want everybody to be clear. It is the county that has put that up, so it will be up to us as a board and as management to talk about that with them, to allow the golf carts to go up to, because I think that's a good idea. To have it go up.
Yeah, if it's a county sign, it's the county engineer again. And if the county engineer, if it's that something, if you'd like to have that golf cart access back into this commercial, two things. Number one is the county engineer would have to sort of say, okay, and change the thing. And then, of course, the developer of this would have to sort of figure out how to accommodate the carts coming on there, where to park them and stuff like that, and make it part of what they're doing. Yes, sir.
In relation to what you said about Barkley being made into what, 3 or 4?
A four-lane roadway.
Well, do you know if there was any negotiation between the developer and the people that own that property to provide, including the real estate store and also the liquor store? Boy, if they had that, that would really make this work well. Do you have any knowledge of that?
I know they bought the real estate, but I'm not sure that I think they approached the liquor store, and I don't think that was an easy get. Liquor stores are pretty profitable. Well,
Because that would really solve a lot of problems. Tell him to put his money up.
yes. They actually, I think, already have a few commitments. The way this thing works is that they are sworn to secrecy. They don't even tell us, for the most part, as to what's going in there. But there's some. They've advised that there's some very nice outfits planned to go on in here. But so I think you'll be pleased with the types of uses they're bringing in, the type of tenants they're bringing in. I think you'll be pleased with that. And I think there'll be a little nice range to it, so I think you'll probably end up using half a dozen or more of these things yourselves quite often, I would imagine. Yes.
Over there.
Oh, okay.
Excuse me, on your entire floor plan that you're showing there, you're showing nothing for water remediation or flow of water. And as we very well know, the retention ponds that are around the county are at pretty much max capacity in regards to runoff. I'm not seeing that formatted into any of your design there.
Well, when you get these zoning layouts, generally the engineer takes it from there and chops away at some of the stuff you thought you might be able to get. So this is as big an area. This came essentially, the clients tried to settle one and all this area. This is retention over here. This is retention. These are natural and low areas. There's also going to need to be more retention. This is probably going to become larger over here, larger over there, and you're probably going to end up having some other retention in here, and less of it will be actually portions of the project. The good thing is in this area that you have Candler sand soils. Candler sand soils percolate very rapidly. So unless you have a high water table and you see water in your drainage retention areas, or you have lakes in this area, but generally in this area they will go down like up to 20 inches an hour. That means you don't have to have as large retention areas here. There's other places in the county, toward Brookridge in particular, or not toward Brookridge, Brooksville, then you get more and more clays as you go toward Brooksville and US 41, and it doesn't really percolate very much there, and the retention areas have to be larger, and even then the water keeps flowing. I think there was another question here too.
I was just trying to get your attention.
Okay, so, thank you.
Can we ask them to sit down?
Other questions, folks? Again, we have, there's a number of comment sheets there. You're welcome to come on up and provide your comments on there. And you will be notified, your HOA will also be notified with respect to when the hearings are taking place. And you're invited to come to the hearings if you want and see where the board goes with this. Yes?
Yeah, I've got one question, and I've been listening intently, and I have heard a few things. Has any thought been given to security?
Security.
Yeah, crime in the area. You get businesses in, you're gonna have crime. How's that gonna affect us? Has any thought been given to that?
Well, another thing with having there's going to be like you have a homeowners association, there's going to be a property owners association here also. That property owners association is going to look at items like common maintenance, common security, and a number of those issues. So how much security they're doing, it may be that they end up hiring a security entity and they do some stuff working through there. Obviously, these are going to be nice businesses, so they don't want to be broken into. So I would anticipate that they're going to take pretty good care of that aspect of it. I appreciate everybody coming, and again, anybody wants to comment sheets, you're welcome to come on up, look in here, and ask us questions up here if you like. Thank you.
Right.